It's business tip time. Whether it's marketing, sales, operations, etc., I'm bringing you quick tips across a variety of topics to help elevate your business. Let's get it. Hello, friends. Today we are back with Keren de Zwart. She is a serial entrepreneur and corporate dropout, as well as a business attorney. She founded Not Your Father's Lawyer, which is a flat fee firm. So today she is going to share with us some tactical advice you can apply to your business, whether it's not fearing the things that you don't know or becoming legally legit. Keren, thank you for coming back on the show.
Of course. Thank you for having me again.
Oh, my pleasure. So I have noticed in talking with so many entrepreneurs and even in my own process of setting up businesses, there was a major knowledge gap for me. So you speak directly to this, the fact that you really should not be afraid of what you don't know. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I think that this happens a lot where people come and kind of say, I think I need some legal help. I just don't know what to do. And I mean, first of all, that's a great first step. Obviously, if you have a connection with an attorney, that's the perfect way to get started, but also to just encourage business owners, especially small business owners who, they don't have a lot of resources. They're afraid of, a lot of people are afraid of kind of reaching out to an attorney, especially ones that work kind of on an hourly basis because they don't want to ask the question that's going to result in a bill. So I think that there's a few things to know. And first of all, in general, there are so many resources out there today that you can find for free or for cheap to be able to get the information that you need. So don't be afraid to dig around, search on the internet, see what you can find, but also to kind of be aware of the basics because there's a lot of crap out there too. So how do you dig through all of it and know what's good and, good advice and what's terrible advice? The short answer is that in every stage of your business, you probably are asking yourself questions that already are kind of going to lead you down the right path. So when you're first working as you're starting a business or you've been operating for some time, but it's been small and maybe it's growing, primary question I always get is, do I need to set up an entity? I heard that an LLC or a corporation is the best way to go. Should I be in Delaware? Should I be in my state? And unfortunately, the short answer is there's no one answer, but there are a lot of important features to that are important to consider. So the first one is you don't always have to be an entity. There are a couple of major factors. The first is just that you have to understand that as a sole proprietor, when you don't have an LLC or corporation or some other entity with limited liability, that you have unlimited personal liability. And that can sound scary, and it can be scary. But if you're running a low liability, kind of low risk, low capital, it's not a capital intensive business, then operating as a sole proprietor for some time or even forever is totally acceptable. If you have a mortgage, like a home with equity in it, if you have, investment accounts, if you have any significant assets, or if you're risk averse, like I am, then forming the entity at the beginning is a really good thing to do. And then from there, it gets complex. And obviously we have to talk really high level for this purpose, but LLCs and corporations can be taxed as S corporations, which people don't always fully kind of understand what that means. It's actually just a tax designation, not like a legal entity. The underlying entity is the LLC or the corporation. And in the simplest form, the reason an S corporation can be good for people is it can be really tax advantageous, but it requires you to actually hire yourself as a W-2 employee of your own business and run payroll for yourself and pay payroll taxes. So it's great to work with either an attorney who has the experience or even better, an accountant that knows your full financial picture and can kind of give you, any good accountant can actually run the numbers for you and kind of say, maybe it's only going to cost you, $1,000 a year to run an LLC that's a disregarded entity if you're a sole proprietor, and it's going to cost you $10,000 a year to run as an S corp, and that might scare you. But if they say you're going to save $25,000 a year in taxes, it can be a no-brainer. So those are important questions, and really why I think it's great to have professional service providers like accountants or lawyers, if you have a team like HR experts, because those are where the liabilities and the kind of tax liabilities can lie. And then similarly, at every stage, kind of ask yourself, what do I need? How am I interacting with my customers, vendors, service providers, and what might I need? And the next kind of piece after entity formation really tends to be to get it in writing, like contracts. That's privacy policies and terms of service on your website. That's client service agreements if you're providing services. It's, terms and conditions of sale if you're providing a product. It's vendor agreements if you have, vendors that you work with. It's independent contractor agreements if you have people providing. You want to protect your intellectual property. You want to make sure that people are abiding by the terms of whatever it is that you're agreeing to. You want to get paid on time, and those are all based on contracts, and they don't have to be complex. I've seen small business owners that have come to me with like truly a really well-written contract from an attorney. But I mean, if you can have the best contract that's ever been written in the history of the world. And if you can't do business with it, it's completely useless. So contracts don't have to be full of legalese that nobody understands. I really am passionate about people understanding their every word in their contract. If your client asks you, what does this mean? I want you to be able to answer it, not let me get back to you. I have to talk to my lawyer. So they can be written in plain English. They can be simple and still protective of both parties. And so don't be afraid of using contracts. Sometimes people are like, it feels so formal and I'm afraid that then my clients aren't going to want to work with me. And those are important and you have to still run your business. But I think that if you can get things simple and in plain language, it can still protect you and it can still protect your client. And your client should want the contract as much as you, because there's a lot of protection for them in there as well. So that's kind of the next piece. And then of course, growing your brand, I touched on a little bit in the context of contracts, but brand protection, trademark or copyrights to protect your business patent if you have any sort of product or invention that requires a patent. But for the most part, the kind of small businesses that I work with are really needing the trademark for the kind of brand protection, and copyright if you have any sort of courses or, handouts or anything like when you're coaching. All of that content that you create is copyrighted. And so just understanding how it's protected, what additional steps you need to protect it, especially when you have a team that's working with you, because everything that is created, the creator actually owns the copyright. So if I'm your employee, we need to have it in our agreement that the work I'm doing is owned by the company, not by me. And you want to make sure you have that protection. And so, but if you kind of go back to each of these pieces, you can ask yourself these questions and then kind of find your way to the answer, right? So if you're back at the entity formation, like, hey, what do I do? Do I need an entity? Can I operate as a sole proprietor like I am? And you can kind of find good answers out there to help you navigate those questions. Same thing with, what kind of agreement do I need if I'm this or that kind of, service or product provider, to give you a sense of where you're going. And then don't be afraid to reach out. Like the online community, especially for business owners, is a really wonderful community that is open and will share resources. And don't take other people's contracts because they're not usually going to be good for you, but get their, the information for the service providers that helped them write their contract, or their accountant, or, what did they do at what step? There are people that are behind you and in front of you in kind of their business journey, and they're going to help you fill in those gaps and get that information.
have just been shocked how willing people are to help when I've asked people for either contacts, referrals, advice. Yeah, I would echo that. I think the online community of entrepreneurs is pretty awesome. And you keep finding more and more and more throughout your journey too, of great people to connect with.
Absolutely.
This was such good advice. And I wish that I had been taking notes. I'm going to have to listen back to it, because as you were talking, I was like, oh, I need to book time with Keren, because I need like 5 more things that I hadn't been thinking of. So Keren, share, where can people find you? How can they work with you?
You can find me at notyourfatherslawyer.com or on Instagram at notyourfatherslawyer. And I do offer free consultations. So if you have any questions, you're always welcome to book through that link to get set up.
Well, thank you so much for coming back on. This was great. Like I said, I'm re-listening to it because there's about at least 5 different contracts that I need you to draft up for me. So I'll be looking for that email. And thanks so much again. I'm just so grateful for you to impart your wisdom on all of us. This is an area that I feel like the vast majority of people feel very intimidated by, and you just simplified it so much. So thank you for that on behalf of me and everyone that listens to this.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to the show. If today's episode added value to your life in some way, please subscribe, leave a 5-star review, and share it with someone who needs this. I'd love to connect with you on Instagram and hear how the show has inspired you. So tag me or slide into the DMs. Find me at Corporate Dropout Official or Alacia Citro. That's ALESSIACITRO and 2 underscores. Until next time, remember that you're a badass, stay focused, stay hungry, and dare to drop out.